She's the highest-ranking woman in U.S. history. She's made a career of being first. She's the first woman to serve as Attorney General, African-American, Asian-American descent. She's also she's been district attorney of San Francisco. She was the nation's first Indian American senator. She's the first woman, first black Asian American to be elected vice president. She set the record for the most tie-breaking votes cast by a vice president. She's the first black woman, Asian American in U.S. history to win the presidential nomination of a major party. She's the first HBCU grad, making us proud. She's a Howard University alum. She's a member of the prestigious Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. Here she is in person, Madam VP, Kamala Harris. Madam VP, how you doing?
Thank you very well, Shannon. How you doing?
It is an extreme honor, privilege, and a pleasure to have you on Club Shay. CJ, who's the producer here, when we started this journey, Madam VP, 4 years ago, celebrities, athletes, entertainers, influencers.
Yeah.
VPs and presidential hopefuls were on the bingo card. You're here, so I want to thank you very much.
I thank you.
When we have guests come on, Madam VP, we like to toast. And what I read on your card, you don't deserve this. You've earned this. Being the first in so many areas. And you make us proud. I just want you to know you make us proud for what you've been able to accomplish. And we're 12 days away, and we hope you have an even greater accomplishment. So here's to continue success in everything you've done and everything that you will do.
Oh, bless you, and thank you. And to you, Shannon, to you for all the success and the voice you give to so many issues. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
And cheers to you.
Cheers.
And I'm not going to actually drink this because I might fall asleep. And I need to do this
I don't want you
with
to fall
Barack
asleep.
Obama this afternoon.
We don't want you to fall asleep.
So here we are. Cheers to everybody.
So before we get into the things that you want to do once you become president of the United States, I want to go back. When you found out when President Biden called you and said that he was no longer going to seek re-election, and you got that call, do you remember where you were and what you thought when you heard him say these words to you?
I do. So I was home. It was a Sunday afternoon. And my niece, her husband, and their 2 young daughters were visiting and staying with us. And I promised the kids I'd have pancakes and bacon and everything.
Okay.
And then after that, I had a puzzle for the kids, and we were sitting down to do the puzzle.
Okay.
And the phone rang. And it was President Biden. And so that's when he told me. And it was obviously life-changing in so many ways. But, you know, I have to tell you, Shannon, I at that moment, I knew what it would mean, but not in the detail of it, but I certainly understood the seriousness and the gravity of the moment. And actually, one of the first people I called was my pastor. I knew I needed a moment to just be still, and for my spirit and my mind to have clarity about the seriousness of the moment and my role. And I'll never forget that call or that moment or that day.
Your life instantaneously changed in that moment.
Yes, it did.
Because now all of a sudden you weren't going to be running, you weren't going to be the VP anymore. You were going to be front and center. And you knew what the undertaking, having been 4 years as the vice president, what that moment would mean.
I had a sense of it, you know, like so many of us, you know, this is your life, right? So there are those moments where your instinct kicks in, sometimes before your conscious mind and thoughts do.
Yeah.
And my instinct kicked in immediately that I need to focus and I need to do certain things immediately, which included making, I think we estimated I made over 100 calls that day. My team, and I have an incredible team, all came in, and nobody expected, right? It was a Sunday afternoon.
Correct.
In fact, we actually joked who had taken a shower that day. Because, people came in their workout clothes. Different people, and, a bandana around their head, just, and came in, and we then, for hours and hours, well into the night.
Did you tell them? Did you tell them why you had summoned them to come to your place? Did you give them that news, or were you waiting for them to get there to share that news with them?
Well, so the news started to, as you can imagine, pretty much immediately, and but of the many blessings that I have and have had, one of them is an incredible team of people around me. You know what that's like, where they're just there, and they will rise to a moment. And no matter how high that moment is, or meaning how serious it is. And
she said she wasn't going to drink anything because she might go to
there's
sleep.
no job too small or too big.
She just don't want people to
If
see
there's
her
something that
drinking
needs
so
to
that
get
they,
done.
you know, can put one and
So,
one together.
although you have
Oh yeah,
a
most
huge
definitely.
role now, what's a typical day like?
She
She
didn't do Rogan, but she gonna do Shay
What time
Shay.
you normally getting to bed? What time you getting up?
In
And
24
what's some of the
hours, they only got 1
activities that you
million
doing to get a
views.
day?
Cat Williams had over
I'm
what 20
having,
some million
I
views
probably
or
estimate
something. It was real big in 24 hours.
15-hour days.
Okay.
Rogan too.
When I wake up,
Oh, he's
no
going
matter
to
how
agree.
little sleep or how much sleep I've had,
He's
I work out
getting
every
paid.
morning.
Okay. Okay.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
because it's like mind, body, and spirit, right? And then and that's
shit.
the only time in my day I really own.
I'm
And
watching it
then
just for the
it
bullshit.
These days, it's not unusual for me to be in 3 or even 4 cities in one day. Rallies with
I needed a
thousands
laugh
of
today,
people,
so I'm gonna watch her
10,000
talk.
people showing up, making calls to folks.
She got Bruce
Just
Springsteen
now I
coming
landed
next
in
to help
Atlanta, the
her.
mayor of Atlanta, who greets me every single time.
Yep.
So I'll talk with elected leaders who are
This is my
supportive
first
about,
time
so for
watching
example,
it, so
here in Atlanta, what do we
I
need
just
to
figured
do to
I'll
make
put
sure
it out and
that we're
you
giving
know,
folks the resources to knock on doors and
'cause
remind
I
folks of the power of their
showed
voice.
Trump a few times.
And 12 days in, it really is a lot about trying to focus on getting folks to know their
I don't want
power,
nobody
to
to say,
not
oh, well,
let
what
anybody
about her?
suppress
You
or
don't.
silence their voice.
I'm
And
gonna
to
show her
vote.
too, but.
So breakfast. What does Madam VP eat for breakfast, or do you have time to, or is it on the go?
No,
Oh yeah.
when I was younger, I didn't think I needed breakfast. I wasn't a breakfast eater.
Okay.
She got.
Now
They
I'm a
always
breakfast
gotta
every
have
morning.
a
It's usually a
superstar to
spinach
bring in
omelet.
people. It's crazy.
Very exciting.
Trump
Right.
just
But
brings
it's
the people.
protein with a little vegetable, and I like chicken apple sausage. And
Yeah, I
some
bet you ain't
toast,
as high
and
as she
then
is,
I'm
bitch.
going.
Madam VP, you're a couple of years older than myself, so we kind of
Thank
grew up
you.
in the 80s. But I'm only 35.
Oh, now you're a guest.
No, but you only 30. But we grew up
But
in.
just keep moving. I'm gonna give you a shovel in a minute.
I see. You won't let it go. Dang. We could just moved on past that real quick, but you drew attention to it. But we grew up in the 70s with music.
Yeah.
Went in fire. Ohio players.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
you know
fire. Come on.
Oh, you were like fire.
Come on.
Trying to get his knob slob.
Yes. Yes.
He gonna
What
get
do
his
you listen
knob
to now?
slob, but then again, I don't know.
Oh, I
Shay
wish I
Shay.
were listening to more
It's
music,
some
to be
fucking
honest
shit
with you,
about it.
because I love it. Just, but
You don't
when
have
I
downtime like when you have downtime?
I don't have any downtime.
Shay don't
I'm
have
on
a
my
sex
little violin
tape.
I'm playing right now with you.
Like
I really
did
don't.
on
But
that
when
Instagram
I love
shit. The next
jazz.
one's gonna be her.
If it's from Thelonious Monk to Miles Davis.
Mm-hmm.
I love Aretha. I was just with Stevie.
Right, I
Stevie's, can I tell you?
Yes, you can.
Bucket list.
Yes, you
Stevie
can.
Wonder on my birthday saying
Can
me
I
happy
tell
birthday.
you? Yes, you can.
Can you believe
This
your
ain't
birthday
natural.
to me?
Oh my.
She's
Can you
talking about
imagine?
stuff that ain't
I was
relevant to
literally,
what's going on.
it was surreal.
Trump was just sitting
Can
there
you, a
with Rogan
bucket list
and
moment
talking
when
about
Stevie Wonder
all
himself
kinds.
sings you
Yeah,
happy birthday?
I don't.
An 18-year-old.
If you don't vote for me, then
Could
you don't know if
imagine
you're black.
your
Some
life
shit
would have been like
somebody
this
said
Never.
on his
this
show.
many years
And it's
ago?
Never.
like,
Let me tell you,
wow,
my
they
mother
couldn't see
loved.
that.
She had every Stevie and every Aretha Franklin record,
Oh,
every album, like literally every one of
She
them.
might have had an edible bitch
for-
before
I
this
mean,
interview.
you know,
It's hard to say.
Songs like he
Somebody couldn't
like
tell.
all those Stevie
She
songs
had a
that
pack
were
of gummies.
about everything from
Not
the
one, she
movement
ate the whole
to
pack.
optimism. I would have never, at 18, thought that he'd be singing me happy birthday. Ever. Never. Never.
That's the least. I mean, but
I just
obviously
don't believe it,
everybody
man.
knows
Like,
Stevie. He was a child prodigy, 13 years
Yeah.
old, and
and even
Yeah.
he was
Trump,
doing
that
great
people could
things.
say
But
it
to
was a
see,
political stunt for him
Madam
going to
VP,
McDonald's,
what you've been
but
able to do,
then
you
again,
had so many firsts.
what he did was
First
just
attorney general,
brought
a
light
woman
to a
attorney general,
lie.
Yeah.
African American, Asian American.
You know what I'm saying?
He was
She
the
lied
DA of
about
San
something, and
Francisco.
all he
was the
did was
first,
went there,
Indian American
actually
U.S.
served a
senator.
little bit of food, even
And
still
second black
all
woman
planned,
ever
but
in the
he
history of the
still
United States Senate
stood
elected.
there, dipped the
Second
fries in the
in the
fryer,
history of the United States Senate.
pulled
Have
them
you
out,
had an
salted
opportunity
them,
to sit back and reflect and say,
handed the
wow,
food to people out the window? So,
the
like,
work is not
technically,
yet done?
he worked
That's
there.
more where I am. The work is not done. The work is not yet done.
Not
There's so much to
doing
do. I mean,
anything.
from, to your point, being in the Senate, so
She goes into
there is
places
a
and
weight of
restaurants and
responsibility
stuff.
that I know we all
And
feel,
I've never seen
right?
her
When
them
we have
buying
been
people food, but they
blessed
criticize Trump
with
for buying
an
people food.
experience
Like,
that
what the hell?
allows us to be a role model.
I mean, it's a nice gesture,
And to
regardless,
hopefully
but
inspire
some people, I
people
guess, are
and to
ungrateful for
remind
even
them of what's
something little.
important or point out the things that need to be
It's just
addressed. So,
sad.
for example, as only the second black woman elected to the United States Senate, I took on a real
she
role of
really
leadership
black,
around
though?
black maternal mortality,
No.
which affects black women and affects their spouses, their husbands, their families, their children. And I feel a sense of responsibility and a very strong duty to make sure that I use my voice
It
and
hurts my
in a way that
feelings
is
that
about
she
lifting
keeps
up people
saying
who
that
have not always been in the room.
she's going to do this, she's going to do that, but then again, she's in office. Like, I think,
Well, I'm
is this
here
a
as
damn
his
commercial?
replacer. Let's start with Texas, shall we? Well,
What is this?
I think this is, I mean, ooh,
Because, like, she's in power.
things are
If she's
moving.
going to change anything, she could
Oh, I
do
can go-
something and say, oh, okay, look at this. See what I did since
Yep.
I'm vice president? But she
And
was
that's all for
referred
today,
back to
folks.
being an AG or whatever
Check in
she was in
tomorrow.
California. So I can't understand
If you could speak to
why
your
she
18-year-old
refers back
self,
to things that she
What would you
did
tell
then and not anything she did as a
If
vice
I could
president.
speak to my 18-year-old
So-
self, I would probably
Judge
tell
Joe
her,
Brown is the main one that was speaking a lot of shit
continue
that I've seen.
to
So
keep your friends. You know, my best friend from kindergarten is still one
Judge
of my
Joe
best friends.
What?
said some
Yes.
crazy shit.
In fact,
Y'all
she's,
the first girl you best friend.
yes. In fact, she's been out knocking on doors in North Carolina
So I,
just this last week for me.
I look at both sides the same.
I would say,
you know what I mean? But
hold on to
I know
those,
which
to
one is
hold on
not
to that, which
the
is
same as the other. So.
your friends are so important, your
That's just me.
family is so important. I would probably encourage myself at 18 to remember that you have a lot of people who are supporting you even if they don't know you. You know, that's what I mentor a lot of people, Shannon. So this is what I'm really reflecting on, which is what I tell the young
Where's the
people
people
I
that she
mentor,
mentored?
including to know that even when you
They
are in
can't
that
speak
room
up.
and you're the only one who looks like you or who has had your life experience, to know you are not alone in that room.
She don't know what that shit
And that
is
you
like.
must therefore walk in that room, chin up, shoulders
I know,
back,
right?
knowing we're all there applauding you. When I mentor
Where's their
young
Where's
women
the
and
people
men,
that
I
she
remind
mentored?
them
Why ain't she
that
got any
you
of
are
them
often
speaking
going to
up
be
for her and
told,
shit like that?
well, it's not your
It's crazy.
time, not your turn.
Hell, even Trump
you're
said
too
he had
young.
Whoopi working for
Nobody
him
like
years
you has
ago.
done this before.
Tyson
and
backs
I tell them,
Trump
don't
because
you
he
ever
backed
listen
him
to
back
that.
in the 90s with the
I
shit
like
he
to say,
went
I
through.
eat no for breakfast.
Jesse Jackson,
I don't hear no. You ask me what
Al
I eat for
Sharpton,
breakfast.
all was
I eat no for
No,
breakfast.
getting money from
I don't hear
Trump
it.
back in the day,
And
he was
that's
helping them
part
with
of what
things.
are my life lessons
Even back before
that
in
I
the 90s
try
or
to
late
share
80s, Trump had
with young people
flats on his limo.
to remind
and a
them
farmer
that
pulled
you
over and helped
cannot
him, and he
ever
paid his
be
fucking
burdened
mortgage
by
off
other
for him.
people's limited ability to understand who
Where's
you
her
are.
stories of
Like,
good
don't
deeds?
let their limited ability burden you
Oh man,
about
that
your
shit
own
there,
ability.
yeah,
You know?
Madam EP, you were raised
that
by
shit kills me
a
because
single
she
mom.
keeps talking about
What did that
this and that,
experience
but
tell
nothing
you
that's
about your
serious.
mom,
And that
and what
shit
did it
there
tell
is
you about
serious.
you?
Well, it
There's a
told
lot of
me
bullshit
that
that's coming with them, man.
one of the things that
It
is
ain't cool.
precious is to build community and family. Like my mother, she
She's
understood that
just like Biden, they both
there
gotta
is a
refer to some
community that she
family
wanted her
stories or
children to
something
be
like
raised
that.
in.
Trump,
And she
I
was
don't hear
very
him referring back
intentional
to,
and
oh, my
purposeful about that.
grandpappy,
And so I
my
always say to people,
great-grandpappy
even when
Trump
I
did
took the
this and
stage
that, and that's
as
what
the
taught me how
nominee
to
for
do
the
this and this
Democratic
and that. I hear
nomination,
him say no shit like that.
that, you know, there is the family that you have by
Biden,
birth,
old corn pop,
and there is also
he
the
came
family you
by
have by
and
love.
we fought.
And they're equally
He whipped my
family,
ass, but I
right? And
later
I
on
learned
got
that
even
from
with
my
the
mother.
bitch or something.
So
Like,
my
what the
mother, I had all these aunties and uncles.
My uncle
My
was
Uncle
eating my
Sherman, who was one of
cannibals.
the first black men to graduate
Fuck,
from
man.
Berkeley School of
Motherfucker,
Law,
I said,
who, when we were young girls, sat us down and taught us how to play chess. Because Uncle Sherman said,
oh, who's
you need
Uncle
to
Sherman?
understand how the chessboard works, because that's the
You
way
got
the
a picture of
world
Uncle
works. There are going
Sherman
to be
to prove it?
different
Is it
players with
the
different
clumps?
moves,
Sherman clumps?
and you need to see the whole board.
Mhm.
My mother raised us around, like my Auntie Chris, who went to Howard in the 50s,
Oh, Auntie
and
Chris.
pledged Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Oh.
And she was one of my incredible role models growing up, and that was one of the big reasons I wanted to go to Howard University and pledge Alpha Kappa Alpha.
Now, what's any of
Those are
this
some
going
of
to
the
do to help
lessons
our
that I've
country and the
learned
people,
from my
man?
mother,
That's what
and I
kills me.
try
It's
to
not
also
just me.
share
It's
with
not
people,
just somebody that's
right?
next
Which
to me.
is the
It's
beauty
everybody.
of
You know, everybody that's here is
community,
affected.
and it's
Not
the way
no
I
matter
am,
what
right?
color,
Which is,
creed,
you know,
sex.
the children in my life,
If you're
whether
living,
they
you're
be
a
my
human,
own
you're here,
or
you're affected.
you know my
Legal,
godchildren
illegal,
or
don't
whomever,
matter. You're
right?
affected by this
That
shit.
it's a collective
And that's what
responsibility
gets me. It's like,
that we have.
this bitch
Did
is
you
crazy.
did you know you were different? I mean, were there a lot of people in the community that looked like you or like your mom?
Man, she
did your
ain't never
mom tell you
experienced
you were
half of the
different?
shit some people
Well,
have
my
to go
mother
through and still go
taught
through.
us to, and
That's
everyone
what
in
gets me,
my
man.
growing up, you know, they would tell all of us kids that we were special. I don't think we were particularly special.
And they also said
But
that
they
she
told
had
us we were,
a
and we believed them.
pretty good
We
upbringing
believed
because they
them.
didn't have
I think that's such an
like
important
rough
part of
times
what
like
we
a
can
lot
all
of
do for the
people, man.
children and the children in our lives.
She
And
ain't missed no meals.
you know, but my
you
mother
could say.
raised 2 black girls to be proud black women. Back to music. One of
What
the
she mean by
soundtracks
black girls?
from
she
my
ain't
childhood
black, man.
was, you know,
She
you are
always
young,
said
gifted, and black.
She wasn't.
You know,
She wasn't saying she
and
calling herself black
that's what it
until
was.
this year, man. She was steady saying she was Indian. Why can't she just go ahead and just say and be proud that she's mixed and
They got
mention
a
that,
hankering
you
for Call
know,
of
us
Duty.
mixed
They're all
children or mixed,
playing Black Ops
whatever.
6.
Like,
Scrap
I don't
this.
get it, man.
What is democracy
That shit
without
just don't
feedback?
make sense.
And
She's
without
another
some
Pocahontas,
freebies.
man.
Here comes the free t-shirts. 3-pointer.
Oh, even
You lost your mom
Pocahontas
to
put out a
cancer.
cookbook
Yeah.
You very close to your
saying
mom
that
because you was a
it's
single
a
parent.
Native
That was pretty
American
much what you had,
cookbook,
although
and she
you
got all the
community
Native
Yeah.
to help
American
raise you.
ancestry
How did you
recipes
deal?
and
How did
shit.
you cope with that
And she
loss?
ain't even a native, man. Like,
Grief is difficult.
come on, man.
It's
Just like
difficult.
this.
You know, there are 2 sides to the coin about when you have
And there's also the
relationships
edge of
in
the
your
coin.
life that
So you
touch
got
you
3.
deeply, and then
You
to
got the
lose
front, the
that
back,
person,
and the
it leaves a
edges.
big void, right?
does.
That's the 2 sides.
Mhm.
And I think that
not just 2
part of
sides,
what
there's
I was
3
just
there.
talking about this, but the big part about grief is, especially if you lose somebody to a sickness, to an illness, I think it's really important that you try to remember them as they lived and not as they died.
Right.
Because I think that's how they want us to remember them, but also to remember their suffering, which hopefully was a fraction of their time on this earth,
To unburden what
is
has
to
been.
compound the grief in a way that I think
Come on, man.
it adds to the pain. And what they want is that their active memory, that our active memory of them, is about when they were vibrant and alive. So,
Let's get into things that will change what will happen if you were to become president, say in the next 12 to 13
But
days.
she's vice
Polls
president. She
suggest
ain't
that
did
voters
shit.
trust President
What the
Trump,
fuck,
former
man?
President Trump, more on the economy.
If she gonna take the
What
taxes off
can
the
you
tips,
tell the
why she
voters,
couldn't
our
have did
viewing
that
audience,
now?
our listening audience,
But then
that if you
again,
were to become
Biden
president,
and them tax
while
the tips, they tax
Madam
crypto,
VP
they
Kamala
tax
Harris
a
will be
couple other
much
things
better
that
on the
never
economy
happened.
than what President Trump was.
And hired
well, so
IRS
I'm really glad
agents.
you
That's
brought
why
that up,
the
Shannon. So
agents.
first of all, let's clear up certain myths.
Okay.
What's endorsed her?
You know those checks that went out?
Yes, those stimulus,
Right.
Right.
stimulus check.
Yeah, I know. Well, right.
What's she gonna do for
Yes.
farmers,
Yes.
man?
You gotta be
And
stimulus,
working
but
class
they call them
people, man.
stimmies, okay.
The reason those came about is because there was a Democratic majority in the House of Representatives and Congress.
Mm-hmm.
People like Maxine Waters, people like Hakeem Jeffries, right?
Yes.
Who did the work of pushing to say, people need help right now and we need to send out checks. There was a whole lot of opposition to it,
Trump had
including
the
from
stimulus
Donald Trump's
going.
White House.
Yes, even him. I think he was
And
resistant to it
him,
at first.
yes. That's why those checks, remember, Congress holds the purse.
Yes.
So really, Congress wrote those checks, but then Donald Trump, unlike any president before or after, decided he put his
Here
name
we
on
go.
those checks.
Here
So
we
therefore,
go.
people thought,
So people thought Donald Trump, they gave me that check.
Here we go.
And so let's clear that up first and foremost,
Okay.
but let's also deal with where he was in terms of his policies on the
This
economy.
needs to be debunked.
He
Like somebody's got. Oh man. Damn, if it ain't his, it's YouTube shit.
there's something wrong with you.
The biggest tax cuts for billionaires and the biggest corporations,
Hell yeah.
which caused an incredible deficit. He tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which we also call Obamacare,
which was fucking.
which benefited so many people,
it was
including and in
people and
particular
shit if they
black
didn't
people
have
in
health
America
care.
who otherwise
afford
were
it.
denied by the insurance companies
I know, I
health
was one
coverage
of them
because
that
of
was
pre-existing
in jeopardy, so-
conditions.
Yes, that's most important. Let the people know.
Right?
With Affordable Care Act, if you have a pre-existing condition, insurance companies can no longer deny you coverage.
That's exactly right. And if you think about what that means in the context of also knowing the big health disparities we have in the black community,
Right.
and how more likely, therefore,
And a lot
black
of it's
folks
the shit
might
that's
be
in
to
the food.
have pre-existing
So,
High
conditions,
blood pressure, diabetes,
RFK.
all of that.
cancers.
all of that,
Yes.
asthma
You know,
for our
it wants to
children.
make
Yes.
America
Sickle cell.
healthy
It's
again.
all of
so
that.
I'm for that.
So
you know?
by getting rid of the pre-existing condition ban, what that did, but he wanted to get rid of the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
What we have done, and part of my policies going forward include what we need to do to not only retain the cap that we got on insulin at $35 a month for seniors. By the way, black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes.
Correct.
He wants to get rid of it with that Project
And then a
2025.
lot of it,
Everybody
too,
needs
is
to check
because
that out.
black
What he would do to
people
get rid of Social
can't
Security, or
afford
at
a whole hell
least
of a
raise
lot,
the age to
and
70,
the
so
cheap
you have to work to
foods is
70
the shit
to
that's
be able to
filled with shit.
qualify.
So
Get rid of Medicare, get rid of the
it's
Affordable
expensive
Care
to eat
Act.
healthy.
And that's just on health policy, not to mention bringing back not only tax cuts for the richest people, but what
Like
he
you.
would do that is
You-
about
she's getting them
eliminating
tax
or
cuts.
reducing the ability of corporations to be required to pay overtime. Overtime pay
So you could work, and the corporation wouldn't have to pay you for it.
for
You
overtime.
work for free.
That's right. And overtime means you are actually working a longer day, which means you are more tired.
Right.
Which
Really?
means it requires more exertion. That's why we have overtime pay, so you don't take
Really?
advantage of workers. In addition to all of
Man,
that,
she don't
we're
say
looking
nothing
at
that makes
Donald
sense.
Trump, basically somebody who has never been understanding of the issues that affect the community about disparities. And I'm going to talk, for example,
Wow.
about how when he was a landlord, he denied rent to black families.
And that's been debunked.
You look at what he did in terms of taking out a full-page ad in the New York Times against the Central Park Five,
And that's been
which were
debunked.
a bunch of, they're not young adults, they were teenagers,
That shit's
black
been
and brown
debunked.
teenagers.
Why is she
Took out
bringing
a
this up?
full-page ad on the New York
It's
in the
been
New York Times
proven.
calling for their execution
This isn't
for
true.
crimes they did not commit. They were innocent. Donald Trump, who said of the first black president of the
What's that?
United States, the birtherism,
Oh,
to
God.
have people question whether he was born in the United States,
So
to
where
try and
is
diminish.
his
And then
certificate?
most recently,
Where is
you
it?
look in this very election, legal black immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, saying they're eating their pets.
Legal black immigrants?
So,
Haitians?
So part of what we have to help people understand is don't think you're in Donald Trump's
This
club.
woman is
You're not.
nuts.
Right.
He's not going to be thinking about you. You think he's having you over for dinner?
You
You
won't
think
either.
that when he's going, when
If I
he's
went up
with
to
his
that bitch and
buddies,
seen her and said, hey, I
his
need $1
billionaire
because I'm
buddies, he's
hungry as
thinking
hell, I
about
ain't
what
got
we
no
need
money.
to do to deal
She would
with
spit in my face,
addressing,
bitch.
for example, my work around what I'm doing to address disparities in black men's health,
can't
around
say she
colon
wouldn't.
cancer, around what we need to do around screenings, what we need to do around prostate cancer. Black men are twice as likely to have, and screenings. What we need to do to address.
I'm a survivor of prostate cancer.
Right,
Oh,
you know what I'm talking about.
Go James and the Lakers are back putting on a show, and you know I got to get the best deal on tickets. That's why I
Damn,
need to
Shay,
tell you
Shay,
about my sponsor, SeatGeek. With over 28 million downloads, SeatGeek is the number one
Shay,
rated
Shay,
ticketing
help
app.
this bitch make
There are
some
more than
money.
70,000 events on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more sports. I'm excited to go see the Lakers dominate the Sixers at the Crib. They put all their tickets across the web in one place to make sure you're getting a good
This
deal.
shit don't make no
Each ticket
sense,
is rated on a
man.
scale of 1 to 10. So look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad.
I
And you
thought
know I
red
came
meant
through for you
good,
guys. Use my
and
code
green
Shay
meant
Shay
bad.
for $20 off tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code Shay Shay. Would you want to touch on some specific things you would like to do to keep it, because the economy seems to be heading in the right direction, but the inflation, gas prices are extremely high, groceries are extremely high, this rent. I mean, it used to be when I was renting, they moved the rent up $40 a year. Now they moved it up $400.
So let's talk about that.
That's her
I'm
fault.
glad you raised that. So, for example, groceries, yes, the prices are still too high. You know it, I know it.
Yeah.
No,
part
you
of my
don't.
plan is to deal with price gouging. I did it when I was Attorney General. I'm going to do it as President,
No,
which
you
is these
don't.
companies that will jack up the prices of groceries to take advantage of people in need, and in particular during a crisis, like what you see around the pandemic or Hurricane Helene.
Yes. Milton.
Right?
Yes.
And she ain't did
Milton,
shit for the people,
right?
man,
So
in
there's
Florida
that.
and
In
Georgia,
terms of
North
housing,
Carolina.
first of all, we know that
She ain't
black
go there
families
to,
are 40% less likely
to
to
help them
own their
people at all,
home.
man.
And we can go back to redlining.
Mm-hmm.
We can go back to policies that were by law or practice meant to not give black folks equal opportunity to home ownership, especially in certain neighborhoods. We can go back to what happened around the GI Bill, and when all the Great Generation, we call them, came back, and there was federal policy to say, you all fought for our country, we're going to give you a boost around helping you buy homes. But those black servicemen, and it was mostly men, those black servicemen did not. So you had then a time when there was a boost.
What about all of the servicemen?
It ended up being not for black
that can't get
servicemen.
any help.
So part of my
medical
policy is to, one, create a fund so that we will give a $25,000 down payment to first-time homeowners to just help people get in the door. We will deal with the rent issue, because part of what we're seeing in Atlanta and places across our country is these corporations are buying up all these properties, which means then that they don't have to deal with competition between the properties, and they're jacking up rent costs. So it's about also going after that corporate gouging around what they're doing to buy up and then jack up the prices of rent. We also need to help people with small business ownership. I did, even before I was running for president, a tour, I called it the Opportunity Economy Tour, focused on black men and black entrepreneurs. What we know is, unlike Donald Trump,
no other.
About $400 million handed to him practically on a silver platter. And by the way, Shannon filed for bankruptcy 6 times. Everybody wants to say he's a great businessman. Take a look at his record. I know that so many of our entrepreneurs who have great ideas don't have access to capital, but they have serious work ethic, great ideas, and a plan to do the work. So part of my plan is to increase access to capital, including giving $20,000 forgivable loans for startup capital for people to buy the equipment, and then to change the tax deduction. So whereas it is now $5,000, to make it $50,000 to start a new business, because nobody can start a new business on $5,000. No. And the direct benefit, when we're looking at black entrepreneurs, is profound. And all it is about saying this: Americans in general, regardless of their race or gender, we have ambition, we have aspirations, we have dreams, but not everyone has access to the opportunity to let some actually accomplish that. I want to increase access to opportunity.
Listen, unfortunately, I've gone viral a few times, but I've never gone viral for GLP-1s for weight loss. So you've probably heard about this once-weekly shot that can help you lose an average of 20% of your weight in a year when combined with diet and exercise. But you also may have heard that out-of-pocket costs can be huge, and figuring out insurance coverage is wild. Now Roll's making it easier to see if you're covered for GLP-1s to help you get the best price out there. Want to hear my favorite part? They'll check for free. Yep, it won't cost you a dime to find out if your insurance will cover GLP-1s. 100,000 members and counting have trusted Roe to check their coverage and get the meds at the best price possible, depending on their insurance plan. Just submit your insurance card, and Roe will create a personal insurance coverage report so you can understand your options. Go to roe.co/Shannon for your free insurance coverage report. That's ro.co/Shannon. Start losing weight sooner with GLP-1 through Roe. Madam VP, if you were to become president, what measures would you put in place to make sure Social Security benefits continue? Because there are reports that it could possibly be depleted by 2033. And there are estimated that 11,000 people turn at least 65 years of age every single day.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do to make sure, because that, people with disability, retirement, survivors with beneficiaries, what are you going to do to make sure that...
Oh, God. Ain't no damn way.
Asthma?
They killing me with this tonight. We're gonna fix that shit, though.
Before her dad let you sit in his...
There we go.
It could possibly be depleted by 2033. And there are estimated that 11,000 people turn at least 65 years of age every single day.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do to make sure, because that,
Nothing.
you know, people, disability,
She's
retirement,
gonna do nothing.
survivors with beneficiaries, what are you going to do to make sure that
What the fuck? Yo, like, not even 30 seconds and they hit me with a second one?
that continues?
So,
Wow.
Shannon, to your point, there was an independent economic review of Donald Trump's plan,
Mm-hmm.
which shows that Social Security in the next 6 years would be insolvent under his plan, meaning that it would not be able to pay out what hardworking people who deserve dignity in their retirement deserve. And as you and I both know, there are a lot of our seniors who their only source of income is that Social Security check.
And FEMA
Right?
funds.
It's the only way they're going to pay the rent or have food on the table. So my plan is about doing what we need to do to put the resources back into Social Security, but also expanding it. Because here's part of the problem with Social Security, is that for our aging seniors, if they are a couple, for example, and one of the spouses passes, that cuts their Social Security benefits almost in half. So part of my plan is to reconfigure it so that that surviving spouse does not then have a crisis where they've already lost their loved one. But we also just have to understand on a macro level, we've got to require that billionaires and corporations pay their fair share, right? They can afford to. And that's part of what is the difference between me and Donald Trump. My plan is about tax cuts for small businesses, for working people, for middle-class people. 100 million Americans will benefit around tax cuts. My plan is that no taxes will be raised for anybody making less than $400,000 a year. My plan is that we give young parents a $6,000 child tax credit to help them pay for child care, for a crib or a car seat, because you and I both know the vast majority of our young parents have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources. And back to the way I was raised, I know that the children of the community are the children of the community. That you and I will benefit from that young family having the resources they need. So it's about all of us benefiting, but it's a state of mind and it's a perspective. Mine is about thinking about the challenges people face and getting them help. Donald Trump is full-time focused on himself. You watch his rallies. He will spend full-time talking about, I was going to say Freddy Krueger, Hannibal Lecter. Might as well be Freddy Krueger. Hannibal Lecter. He'll spend full-time talking about his grievances, about what everyone has done to him.
Man.
He'll talk about himself, but he does not talk about the American people. He does not talk about what he's going to do for middle class. He does not talk about what he's going to do for families, for working people. And we're 12 days out. This is probably one of the most serious elections that we have faced in our lifetime.
She got them fucking earrings on.
My perspective, and I will be the kind of president who spends full time focused on the needs of the people. That has been my career. I have spent my whole career as a public servant, trying to uplift the condition of other people, knowing what is possible and doing it with a sense of optimism.
Bullshit.
On January 20th, a new president is going into the White House. Period. A new president is going into the White House. Do you want to look at the Oval Office and see a Donald Trump who's going to be sitting there, filling out his enemies list, spending full time figuring out retribution and revenge,
sure that the wars
or looking at the Oval Office and knowing you have a president in there who's creating a to-do list that's about what to do to help the American people?
That ain't you.
So raising minimum age of Social Security, that's not on the table for you?
No. Here's how, look, people work hard all their lives. And they deserve to be able to retire with dignity. I'll tell you how I come at this. I come at it from a number of perspectives, including thinking about how I was raised in terms of how you take care of the elders, right? I think about it in terms of taking care of my mother when she was sick and dying from cancer. So one of my policies, for example, is to help Medicare pay for home health care for seniors. Why? Because look, I did it, and it means, trying to cook for an elder, to make something they feel like eating, right? To help them put on a sweater. And we have so many people who are in the sandwich generation. They're raising their young kids and taking care of their parents. And either they have to deplete their savings to qualify for Medicaid, right? to be able to help pay for home health care, or they have to quit their job to do the work of taking care of their kids and their parent. And I just believe that's not right. That we should have policies that give people dignity, especially our seniors. So my plan is Medicare pays for home health care. And no, I would not raise the age of eligibility for Social Security, because the same thing, we shouldn't force people to work until they're 70 in order to retire and have a moment to just enjoy their life and not worry about how they're going to pay their rent.
Is Medicare for all a priority for you?
What is a no? What is a priority for me is making sure that access to health care is a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I am in favor of and have pushed and been a leader on capping the cost of insulin at $35 a month. And why I intend to allow Medicare to actually negotiate against the big pharmaceutical companies to bring down the cost of prescription medication for everybody. That's why I have fought for what we need to do around making sure Medicare covers senior care. Access to health care should not be a question of how much money you have in your back pocket. That's just not right. And I feel strongly about that.
Man, I don't believe her ass. Shit.
Blacks for Trump.
Oh, here we go.
They feel that Trump is better for the black community. Can you explain the Donald Trump's history with blacks? Where did this come that
race bait?
I mean, it's been like this because a lot of people used to say, I'm Donald Trump with a ghetto. Because he was, I mean, for a lot of blacks, not all, but for some blacks, he was, Madam VP, whether we want to admit it or not, he's revered by some blacks.
But here's the thing. The question for everybody, should he be president of the United States?
Okay.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's the question.
Yes.
Should he have the ability to sit behind the seal
he does.
of the President of the United States when he says he wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States? You know what that would mean? In the Constitution of the United States is your Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable search and seizure.
And she
Your
wants to
Fifth
take off
Amendment
first
right.
and second.
Your Sixth Amendment right to an attorney.
Well, a lot of rights going to be gone. The First Amendment.
But the First Amendment, the Second Amendment.
She's trying to take
Look, I'm in favor of the Second Amendment. I don't believe we should be taking anybody's guns away.
Yes, you do.
He wants to terminate the Constitution of the United States. He is the same one, like I said earlier, who denied rent to black families, who took out that full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution of those children.
Debunked. That's been debunked.
Who birtherism accusations against the first black president. Not to mention his. Please ask folks to Google Project 2025.
And
he would get rid of the $35 a month cap on insulin. We know how many of our seniors have it. I'll give you another example of why Donald Trump has not earned the support of folks to be president of the United States again. When he was president the last time, during the height of COVID, 1 in 3 black Americans knew somebody who died from COVID. You remember those days? And people couldn't get their hands on a COVID test. At that very same time, Donald Trump as president secretly sent COVID tests to the president of Russia for his personal use. While Americans were dying every day, he has not earned the right to be president of the United States.
To make ventilators.
It's one thing if he has a television show that's very popular. He can put his name on a building. Even though we all know he was not a terribly good businessman, which is why he filed for bankruptcy 6 times. But that is one thing. To be president of the United States means to try and find common ground, to build consensus, to lift up the American people instead of trying to beat people down all the time. It means solving problems, which means you have to be able to get out of your own head and scan to be concerned about the well-being of other people and then do something about it. Does anyone think Donald Trump thinks that way?
Yeah, well, everything requires you to divorce your own ego to see yourself as someone else.
That's exactly right. And we know that's not his character.
This bitch is a good
so it's about, is this the right person for that job?
Yes, he
right?
is.
He said immigrants are taking black jobs. I don't know what those black jobs are.
Black jobs are entry-level jobs.
Can you elaborate on that?
Don't have any experience and stuff.
Take what black jobs are they?
It's just another example of him trying to divide and him trying to scare people. It's just another example of him doing that. Of him trying to say, it's either you or them. right?
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is that it's incredibly demeaning because, and he still has not been forced to define, Donald Trump, what do you define as a black job? Because let me tell you what I define as a black job. Vice President of the United States.
That's a good one.
Right?
It is. I don't know about the pay, but it's a good job to have.
Well, you know, not everybody is Shannon Sharp.
No, but you know what I wanted to ask?
Oh shit! I
You've
bet
been
she
in
got more money than Sharon.
basically your adult life. You've been a public servant.
Yes, I
You've
have.
been
She can
AG.
swim in her.
My whole
just
adult
like
life.
You've been a
Scrooge
DA.
McDuck.
You've been a senator. You've been VP. Is that what you envisioned? Is that what you always wanted to be? Was a public servant?
I've always wanted to serve. You know, I was raised, I mean, back to whether you, or however you were raised, in the community in which you are raised, including the church in which you are raised, I have always believed that it is an important pursuit to figure out how you can serve. And we can do it in different ways, right? I chose public service. You chose a different route. But it's about service. And I have always, I mean, I've only had one client my entire life, the people.
Willie.
And the reason I keep doing it is because I know the difference that I and we can make when we believe in what is possible and then work hard at it. And my...
Oh, come on with this bullshit. Damn commercials. I'm broke. I ain't got no money to buy shit. I'm just trying to sell me something.
And I have always, I mean, I've only had one client my entire life, the people.
Willie Brown.
And the reason I keep doing it is because I know the difference that I and we can make when we believe in what is possible and then work hard at it. And my...
Man, that's wild. Like 30 seconds and then they hit me with the same one again.
I pledge in this campaign to everyone, regardless of who you are, where you live, what you look like, I will be a president for all Americans. And I will work to bring our country back together because, frankly, I think people are exhausted
Well, it
with
seems
the
like
anger,
the last 3.5 years, everything
with the
really got
hate,
separated really far.
with the division, the attempt to have Americans pointing their fingers at each other. I think people are exhausted. It's not healthy for the productivity of our country. Like, do we want to strive? Do we want to thrive? Or do we want to spend full time with vengeance, demeaning other people?
She keeps calling him fucking Hitler, man.
Living a life of service is about,
that's not
I think, the importance
people.
of lifting people up, not tearing them down.
My team here at Shay Media is always growing and making moves. Sometimes it's a challenge to find qualified candidates, especially when I need them right away. Thankfully, there's a place you can go for help. ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter does the work for you to make hiring fast and easy. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/Shay. ZipRecruiter's smart technology will start showing your job to qualified candidates immediately. And ZipRecruiter's powerful matching technology works fast to find top talent, so you don't waste time or money finding the right candidates. You can invite top candidates for your job to apply, to encourage them to apply sooner. Experience faster, easier hiring with ZipRecruiter. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get quality candidates within the first day. See for yourself. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/Shay right now to try it for free. That's the same price as a genuine smile from a stranger. A picture-perfect sunset, or even a cute dog running up to you and licking your hand. Try it for free at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/Shay. Again, that's ZipRecruiter.com/Shay. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
And even Judge Brown mentioned Trump had him a girlfriend, a black girlfriend back in the early 2000s, supermodel.
You're making political promises, and that you're just pandering. The problem that I have with that, it just seems like only black people pander. Like when other candidates go on shows and they say they're going to do this, they're not pandering. They're telling you, laying out their elaborate plan on what they're going to do. But it seems to you, when you promise it, if I'm president, this is what I'm going to do in the first 90 days. This is what I'm going to do. My administration is going to do while I'm in office. You're pandering. How do you get through to those that says, look, this is what I'm going to do. If I'm elected president, these are the policies, and they will lead to meaningful and impactful change.
Election years,
well, part of it is just to be candid. I think that there's sadly misinformation out there about
And she got
who I am and
earrings
what I've
on,
done,
yeah.
because
them
if
headphone earrings.
people are informed about fact, they will know that almost everything that I'm talking about doing as president is
Bullshit.
built on a foundation of work that I've been doing for years. If it is about economic empowerment of the black community and all communities, I've been working on that.
What, when you
As
was
vice
something in
president,
California?
I am responsible for billions of dollars from big banks and big corporations, including technology companies, getting into community banks to increase access to capital for minority-owned and other small businesses. If you look at my work over a period of years, my focus again on something like maternal mortality is long-standing, which directly impacts black men and black women.
Right.
But what about anybody else,
and the
though,
black
man?
family. If you look at the work that
We're
I am
from
doing that
Chinese.
is
What
about
about
small
me?
businesses.
I can't get shit.
You know, the person who helped my mother raise us, who was a second mother to us, was a small business owner. I have always focused for such a long time on what we need to do, knowing that our small businesses are part of the culture of our communities, right? Including the economic fabric and strength of the community.
I
So
know her
what I'm
growing up
talking
ain't
about
never had
doing
to
right
miss a
now
meal or
is
nothing
based
like
on
that.
long-standing
She
work.
had to
It's
walk
not
around with holes
new.
in her clothes and
But
shit
as
like
President
that.
of the United States,
Raggedy ass shoes.
part
You
of
wear the same
why
shit 2 or 3 times
it
a
is
week,
important
you know?
is
Just,
it
she ain't got
is a
nothing
new
else.
approach
Come
to
on.
that job. It is about a new way that is based on a new generation of leadership, that is based on new ideas, and frankly, a different experience that brings my commitment to the work I am talking about into being.
Can you give us a breakdown of how you will allow blacks and other minorities
Somebody need
to
to
access
ask her.
capital? Because
So
you
she's
speak a
claiming
lot
she's
about
black
capital,
because she ever
and
ate
in
a
order for
syrup
people to
sandwich
become
or a
successful
fucking
and
sugar
have some
sandwich.
wealth, is that they need to have
See what her
access to
Yeah,
that
that's
to get
right.
started.
So that's in fact why I did, starting last or earlier this year, my economic opportunity tour, way before I was running for president, because I realized that so many of our entrepreneurs don't actually have we need to do better in getting information to people about what's available to them. So for example, through the Small Business Administration, there are funds available to help people create a business plan. There is resources available to help people just know how that you need to run a payroll, how you need to pay business taxes. Part of my plan, by the way, is to simplify taxes for small businesses. I like to say it's basically, I'm going to date myself, like, you remember the 1040 Did you ever have to do a 1040 Probably never.
No.
Okay, I did. But, you know, simplifying
Every time she
tax
laughs, I
returns
gotta
for
say
people,
that's her
including our
line.
small businesses.
Right,
But the work that I have done and will continue to do is about knowing that we don't lack for hard work, we don't lack for good ideas, but we do lack for information about the help that is available. So that's part of how it is going to be about increasing access to capital. Part of it is about putting more money. So I called up and got in touch with and worked with some of the big CEOs of the biggest corporations in America and said, and the big banks, that you all don't necessarily, you're not there in the community where you can get $100,000 loan to a small business. You guys deal at a different level. But those $100,000 loans for a startup will go a long way. Let's get those billions of dollars that you've got, put them into community banks who are in the community, who know what the community needs, what they want, what the consumers there want, and then support those small businesses. So that's my approach to access to capital,
Oh, hell yeah.
including making sure that people have, again, simplifying taxes for small businesses. You know why, Shannon? Small businesses can't afford to hire a bunch of accountants
Yeah, they can't help. See.
and a bunch
Man,
of
she
lawyers.
is just not speaking about
But
anything.
That shouldn't be the reason they
gonna
fail,
help
because they
us.
didn't fill out the form properly.
Mm-hmm.
The next
right?
thing
Yes.
she's going to talk about is
So
abortion. I
my
know it.
approach is really understanding
Small
the
business. and then
culture, understanding the
that's gonna be the
needs,
next
and then
topic.
trying to
I'll
fix
bet
problems.
money
I
on it.
love fixing problems with common sense solutions. And again, look, Donald Trump has never, he is never going to relate necessarily to the kind of folks that I'm talking about who on the ground just need to be seen and heard, and then let's fix the
And she
problems.
can never relate to
Let's
a
address the
being middle
challenges to
class
let
growing
them
up.
not just get by, but get ahead. And I want to put a fine point on this. Maybe it's a new perspective. I think it is.
Or even being
I
black growing
believe
up. She don't know what that
that
shit's
we have
like.
had great success in bringing black unemployment down to historic lows.
Yes.
But for me, that's a floor. For me, that's a floor. Because what I know is that it should be baseline that everybody's working. That's not enough. People want to build wealth.
Yes.
And intergenerational wealth.
Correct.
And I want to help people do that. Right?
The only way they can is
I
if
know
they become a
what
politician.
folks want to be able to take a nice vacation from time to time, have nice Christmas gifts for their kids under the tree. And it can't just be about, well, you got a job, applaud me for what I've done for you.
Right.
And that's the spirit with which I do my work.
I saw President Trump on a TV show, and he talked about defunding the Department of Education.
Yes.
Yeah, because they
basically,
keep teaching the kids all
we
this
know that's going
weirdo
to
shit.
affect communities like us that don't have the resources, and then because he says he doesn't. If they talked about slavery, which is a part of our history.
We
It's,
watched Ruth.
That they're trying to cover up.
Yes.
That they're trying to cover up.
We
He talked
watched
about
Ruth.
racism, and he said, well, what we would do if they talked about it, they wouldn't get funding. And we know what communities are going to be most impacted by non-funding.
But, and
Funding's all for that
understand
weirdo
that
shit.
they want to get rid of
Talking
the Department of
about
Education and get rid of Head Start. You know whose kids are in Head Start? They want to, it is, and to your point, and I'm so glad you pointed this out, you know, these are the same people who basically suggested that enslaved people benefited from slavery. The same people who are trying to ban and are banning books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they
And
have a bunch of
again,
weirdo
if
shit
we
in
don't
it.
teach America's full
Teaching kids how
history,
to
we
play
will
with
never
themselves in the wrong
ensure
fucking
that we
way.
don't
As
Right.
little
make
as
the
they
same
Yes.
are, teaching them that
to do those
bullshit.
same things again.
Let's learn from that painful.
Oh man, here we go. We're gonna fix it in about a couple seconds here. Oh damn, let's try it one more time, man.
What would you like to make disappear?
Damn, man. What's up with these damn commercials? 50, bitch, I ain't spending 50 seconds on that shit. They wild.
From slavery.
There we go.
The same people who are trying to ban and are banning books.
Mm-hmm.
And
I
again,
won't-
if
none
we
of
don't
my
teach
kids to look at
America's
that
full
shit that they're
history,
teaching
we
them.
will never ensure that we don't
Right.
make the same,
Yes.
to do those same things again.
30 seconds. They
Let's
gonna hit me
learn
with
from
a commercial.
that painful part of our history to make sure we don't repeat it, but not by not covering it up. Let's have an open and honest conversation about it. It happened.
And the effects of it.
Yes.
And the present day effects of it.
I think we both agree. I think we can all agree on this, that there is a problem with, I don't know how the correct term, I think it's undocumented. How do we get a hold of that, Madam VP? How do we make sure, because I think I've heard you say you want a path to citizenship, but we want to, make sure people come in and do things properly.
Yes, that's exactly right. So first of all, I have personally prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. I have prosecuted the Sinaloa cartel, okay, the Guadalajara cartel. So I put my record up to anybody in terms of how strongly I feel about having a secure border and making sure that there is not that kind of trafficking into America. I also know that we need to put more resources at the border, which is why I supported a bill that came about, including from the most conservative members of Congress, to put 1,500 more border agents at the border, to do what we need to do to cut down the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is killing people of every race and background. More resources would have gone to prosecuting human trafficking.
But
Donald Trump got word of that bill, and he knew it would be a solution to a problem, which is that we have a broken immigration system. He got word of the bill, and he told his friends in Congress, don't put it up for a vote. Don't let it go any further. Because you see, he wants to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem.
Right.
And is putting out tens of millions of dollars of campaign commercials full time, trying to suggest that he cares about strengthening the border when he had an opportunity to participate in a solution, which he killed, because he's not about problem solving. It's about a political game for him. My point is, we got to strengthen the border, and we need to have an immigration system that is fair
what
and
she think.
humane and strong in terms of making sure that people have to earn citizenship, they have to work hard to get it. My plan includes also strengthening what we need to do in terms of, illegal entry and between ports of entry. What we
Yeah,
need
but
to do to
even
put
Puerto Ricans
more
came from Puerto
support for
Rico in the
Border Patrol
50s and got
agents, put
treated
more
like shit. And
technology
they're
at the border.
Americans, basically.
But it includes also,
Some of them
I'm
got
never going
told
to
that
talk
they,
about
if they couldn't
people
speak
from
English,
Haiti eating
they
their
weren't going to get
pets.
served and stuff.
And I think that we also know we don't want an immigration system that's about separating children from their parents. We can do it in a humane way, but the bottom line is we can fix these problems. The solutions are at hand. He stands in the way, and in particular on this issue.
If you were to become president, would you ask Congress to reinstitute that bill and try to get it through?
Absolutely. And also I would work across the aisle with Republicans. There are a lot of Republicans supporting me in this campaign. And I would work with Republicans to bring this bill back up so I can sign it into law. And I do want to talk about that for a moment. This is not 2016 or 2020 in terms of how people are thinking about Donald Trump. He was president, and the people who worked the most closely with him, Republicans at the highest level,
and her staff,
his former chief of staff, his former defense secretaries, his former national security advisor, and his former vice president, have collectively said he is dangerous and unfit to be president of the United States. And Shannon, you can just watch his rallies. I mean, did you see that 39 minutes of him swaying back and forth to YMCA? No, the man, you have to watch, and I encourage everybody who's watching this, watch what he's doing at these rallies. He's increasingly unstable and unfit to be president, according to the people who know him best. All Republicans, by the way, who I just referred to, who know he is unfit to be commander-in-chief. He will talk about service members. A lot of your listeners and the people who are a fan of your show have served or do serve in the United States military. He talks about military service members as being uncourageous, as being cowards, suckers, and losers. This is how the man talks. And so let's not get distracted by who he was on The Apprentice. Let's not get distracted by whatever, building in whatever city in Vegas or wherever has his name on it. Let's look at the job of President of the United States, and is he fit to do that job? And by the people who know him best, including most recently, a 4-star Marine general, his former chief of staff, they all say, those who know him best, he is unfit and dangerous.
The previous administration, your administration that you were in, they got kudos for the student loan relief.
Yeah.
What's the contingency plan? Because I see it's still trying to go through and some of the courts have shot it down. Do you have a contingency plan to continue the student relief?
I'm going to keep fighting for it. And yes, because first of all, what I know is that too many people have been weighed down by their student loan debt to the point they question whether they can have a family, whether they can retire at some point, whether they can buy a home. So that's why I pushed for what we did around student loan debt. And thankfully, for example, we have billions of dollars in student loan debt relief that have gone, for example, to public servants like teachers and nurses and firefighters. But there's more we need to do. But, if I go into various communities like here in Atlanta and ask people how many people got their student debt relieved, the number of hands that go up and the life-changing experience people have had reminds me of the importance of this fight, and I'm going to continue to do it.
Have you let people know that President Trump, if he were to get back into office, he wants to offer police complete immunity? That they can do no wrong, no matter how egregious the act may be? They have complete immunity.
He put it.
Do people understand what that means? Do they really understand what that means, Madam VP?
I hope so, and I encourage people to go online to see how he says it. I encourage people to go online to see how he talks about a day of violence. Did you ever see the movies? Right. Understand. Don't take my word for it.
Take his.
Yeah, take his.
We will.
And see where he stands on these issues.
We do know.
I want to get you
where
out
he
of here on
stands.
this one, Madam VP. You, like myself, attended and graduated from a historically black institution.
Proudly.
And it just goes to show you, if you look at myself, Stephen A., Michael Strahan, three of the most prominent voices in morning television, attended and graduated from an HBC. Yourself ascended to the highest of highs, graduated from an HBCU. What message would you like to share with students at all these historically black universities and colleges? What message would you like to share with them?
Oh, know your excellence. And know we are so proud of you. And we want you to have ambition. We applaud your ambition. We want you to know you can do and be anything. And don't ever hear no. And that no, you stand on broad shoulders, right? Because part of what we know is we have a legacy. And we stand then in that path, knowing that we also have the honor and the duty of excelling in every way possible.
Shit, Cat Williams.
Being able to see what is possible and not be burdened by
man.
other people's limited ability to see the same.
One more thing, I think something that's very, very near and dear to your heart is Roe v. Wade.
Yeah.
I think
here we go with the abortion.
50 plus years, I think 72, 73, when it was Roe v. Wade said, hey, women have the right to their bodies, and all of a sudden the Supreme Court struck it down and says, no, you don't, we have control over that. What would that mean to you? So how do you get that? How do you go back and fight to make sure women still have control of their bodies?
So, I'm so glad you brought it up, Chance. First of all, think about one of the most basic rights that you could imagine is the right for you to be able to make decisions about your own body.
Right.
Your own body.
Your reproductive rights.
And the court just took that right away from women to make decisions about their own body and not have their government tell them what to do. And I think an important emphasis for me is you don't have to give up your faith or deeply held beliefs on this subject to agree the government shouldn't be telling her what to do. If she chooses, she'll talk with her pastor, her priest, her rabbi, her imam, but not the government telling her. And we need to fight against this. We need to understand how many women are suffering miscarriage and being denied help because the doctors are afraid they may end up in jail. In Texas, do you know they provide prison for life for doctors or nurses who provide reproductive care? Prison for life, Shannon. In the state of Georgia, a beautiful young woman, a mother of a 6-year-old son, died because of these Trump abortion bans. The majority of black women
I don't believe this.
And the men who love them live in the South.
Yes.
Do you know in every state in the South except for Virginia, there is a Trump abortion ban?
Yes, I do. Hopefully everybody else knows that also.
Right. And so we all have to stand, regardless of your gender, regardless of your race, your background. We have to stand and say, look, this is just simply not right, and we cannot stand for the notion that Donald Trump could be president of the United States, he who chose a Supreme Court that would take this right from the women of America and the men who love them. And now we have women suffering to such an extent as they are. I think it's one of the most fundamental rights that's at play.
One more thing before you go, Madam VP.
Yes.
Who's the real HU?
Oh, come on.
I'm just asking. I didn't want to know. I don't know. I didn't go to either one, so I just wanted to hear you.
You know.
Madam VP, Kamala Harris.
Thank you all. Thank you.
All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice.
You know, for an hour, like that was nothing there, yo. Literal nothing. Fucking nothing. She spoke about nothing at all. Like, how? How? She blamed Trump and came up with a bunch of gibberish. Trump did 3 hours with Rogan and went from one end of the conversation to the other end with all kinds of shit all in between. And he didn't go bashing her as bad as she did him. So I don't get it, man. I don't understand. I don't get it. I don't get it. And even when he was on there with Andrew or Schultz or something, he didn't just sit there and bash her with stupid shit. So I don't get it, man. Let me see what this bullshit got to say. They got to say on that.
New Lego Star Wars set.
Damn.
Save the galaxy.
Let's fix that real quick.
What does it mean to be
There we
rich?
go.
Maybe rich is less about reaching a magic.
When she concludes, our ABC News Live
Let
team
me
will
hear
be
what
here
this
to
bullshit is.
break down the details of her plan. Let's listen in.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
Bullshit,
and thank
bullshit,
you for
bullshit.
taking the time out of your busy lives. Thank you, everyone. So listen, 1 week from today,
What's she going to say?
you will
Let me hear
have the
bullshit.
chance to make a decision that directly impacts your life, the life of your family, and the future of this country we love. And it will probably be the most important vote you ever cast. And this election is more than just a choice between two parties and two different candidates. It is a choice about whether we have a country rooted in freedom for every American or ruled by chaos and division. Many of you watching have probably already cast your ballots. But
One
I
for
know
you.
many others are still considering who to vote for,
Not
or
you.
whether you'll vote at all. So tonight, I will speak to everyone about the choice and the stakes in this election. Look,
They ain't telling
we
us
know
bitch
who
with that
Donald
shot
Trump
and shut
is.
the fuck up.
He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States
Bullshit.
Capitol to overturn the will of the
Pelosi
people
admitted
in a
in
free
that
and
video
fair
saying that it was her fault. And Trump
An
has a
election
judge
that
that
he
wrote a
knew he
letter
lost.
that denied him from running
Americans
National Guard
died
there
as a
before
result
this
of
shit
that
happened.
attack. 140 law enforcement officers were injured because of that attack. And while Donald Trump sat in the White House watching as the violence unfolded on television,
Now,
he
he
was
tried to
told
prevent
by
days
his
earlier
staff
by wanting the
that the
National
mob
Guard there, but got
wanted to
denied.
kill his own vice president. And Donald Trump responded with 2 words: so what? America, that's who Donald Trump is. And that's who is asking you to give him another 4 years in the Oval Office. Not to focus on your problems, but to focus on his. And Donald Trump has told us his priorities for a second term. He has an enemies list of people he intends to prosecute. He says that one of his highest priorities is to set free the violent extremists who assaulted those law enforcement officers on January 6th. Donald Trump intends to use the United States military against American citizens who simply disagree with him. People he calls, quote, the enemy from within. America, this is not a candidate for president who is thinking about how to make your life better. This is someone who is unstable, obsessed with revenge, consumed with grievance, and out for unchecked power.
That's all teleprompter talk.
Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other. That is who he is. But America, I am here tonight to say that is not who we are. That is not who we are. That is not who we are. You see, what Donald Trump has never understood is that e pluribus unum, out of many, one, isn't just a phrase on a dollar bill. It is a living truth about the heart of our nation. Our democracy doesn't require us to agree on everything.
Oh,
In fact,
yeah.
we like good arguments from time to time. Just think of your own
45 and
family, right?
47.
It's not the American way to not have disagreements. We don't shy away from robust debate. In fact, we like a good debate, don't we? We like a good debate.
But then again, the fucking moderators
And the
were the
fact
ones
that
that
someone
were debating
disagrees
Trump,
with
I
us
heard.
does not make them
They
the
fact-checked him, I
enemy
heard.
within. They are family, neighbors, classmates, co-workers. They are fellow Americans. And as Americans, we rise and fall together. America, for too long, we have been consumed with too much division, chaos, and mutual distrust. And it can be easy then to forget a simple truth. It doesn't have to be this way. It doesn't have to be this way. It is time to stop pointing fingers. We have to stop pointing fingers
Well, all she
and
is
start
doing is pointing
locking
fingers
arms.
at Trump,
It
blaming
is
him.
time to turn the
He
page
ain't been in
on
there
the
4 years,
drama
so
and
why
the
they couldn't
conflict,
change
the
something,
fear
do
and
something better?
division.
They keep
It is
complaining
time
about.
for a new generation of leadership in America.
She sounds like fucking Hitler. She about to put her on there, straight.
And I am ready to offer that leadership as the next President of the United States of America.
And with Shay, she just kept mentioning black this and black that.
Now look,
Look at that small crowd.
let me say, I recognize this has not been a typical campaign.
Nope,
Even
because
though
you got
I've had the
displaced
honor
there.
of serving as your vice president for the last
And in
4
2019,
years,
you were
I
the first one
know,
voted out. Oh, man.
but I know that many of you are still getting to know who I am. Well, let me tell you, I am someone who has spent most of my career outside of Washington, D.C., so I know that not all the good ideas come from here. I am not afraid of tough fights against bad actors and powerful interests. Because for decades, as a prosecutor and a top law enforcement officer of our biggest state, I won fights against big banks
What did
that
you do
ripped
as
off
vice
homeowners,
president?
against for-profit colleges that
She
scammed
keeps
veterans
mentioning what she
and
did in
students,
California, but nothing as
against
vice president.
predators who abused women and children, and cartels that trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings.
There goes
And
that
I
same
did
shit
this
she just
work
said in Shannon's show.
because for as long as I can remember, I have always had an instinct to protect. There's something about people being treated unfairly or overlooked that frankly just gets to me. I don't like it. It's what my mother instilled in me.
Here we go.
A drive to hold accountable those who
She
use
pulling
their
that
wealth
same shit as
or
Biden.
power to take advantage of other people.
She's gonna sit
The
there and
drive
eat my
to protect
candles.
hardworking Americans who aren't always seen or heard and deserve a voice. And I will tell you that is the kind of president I will be.
But you didn't prove anything
And look,
being vice president.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not perfect. I make mistakes.
It's like
But
Biden
here's
was
what I
vice president
promise
and didn't
you.
prove he was shit.
I will always listen to you. Even if you don't vote for me. I will always tell you the truth. Even if it is difficult to hear. I will work every day to build consensus and reach compromise to get things done.
What have you done, though, as vice president?
And if you give me the chance to fight on your behalf, there is nothing in the world that will stand in my way.
There's nothing standing in your way as vice president.
So look, in less than 90 days, either Donald Trump or I will be in the Oval Office.
Damn it, you too?
Come on, live a little.
Okay?
Hope it ain't her.
On day one,
On day one, Willie Brown getting the fight it over.
and on day one, if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with an enemies list. When
Yo,
elected,
she recited
I
the
will
same
walk
shit
in
she
with a
just
to-do
said on
list
Shannon Sharp.
full of priorities of what I will get done for the American people. And I will work with everyone, Democrats, Republicans, and independents,
That's why Ron
to help
DeSantis
Americans who are working hard.
said
and
that
still
she
struggling
didn't
to
say
get
she
ahead.
didn't call him until she.
I have been honored
He,
to serve as
what was
Joe
it?
Biden's vice president.
How they put it?
But I
Till
will
it
bring
came
my
out
own
somewhere.
experiences and ideas
And then
to
he
the
said
Oval
too
Office.
he wasn't answering
My
the phone call for the
presidency will be
stinking ass.
different because the challenges we face are different. Our top priority as a nation 4 years ago was to end the pandemic and rescue the economy. Now, our biggest challenge is to lower costs that were rising even before the pandemic,
Because
and that
they
are still
signed that
too
fucking
high.
thing in that
I
stopped
get
the
it.
oil.
I still remember
That's what
our
caused
mother
it.
sitting at that yellow Formica table,
Oh God.
late at night, cup of tea in hand, a pile of bills in front of her, trying to make it all work. And I've heard
Her
from
little
so
middle
many
class
of you
family.
who are facing even greater financial pressures. Donald Trump's answer to you is the same as it was the last time. Another $1 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires and big corporations. And this time, he will pay for it with a 20% national sales tax on everything you buy that is imported. Think about it. Clothes, food, toys, cell phones. A Trump sales tax that would cost the average family nearly $4,000 more a year. And on top of that, you will
Tariffs?
pay even more if Donald Trump finally gets his way and repeals the Affordable Care Act, which would throw millions of Americans off their health insurance and take us back to when insurance companies had the power to deny people with pre-existing conditions. Well, we are not going back. We are not going back. We are not going back. Because we also know Donald Trump would deliver tax cuts to his billionaire donors. I will deliver tax cuts to working people and the middle class. I will make sure you have a chance not just to get by, but to get ahead. Because I believe in honoring the dignity of work. I will enact the first ever federal ban on price gouging on groceries. Cap the price of insulin and limit out-of-pocket prescription costs for all Americans.
That's why taxes
I will
and shit
fight
keep going
to
up
make
every
sure
day.
that hardworking Americans can actually afford a place to live. I'll never forget how our mother saved up and how excited she was when she could finally afford to buy our first home. I remember how excited she was. And I know that owning a home is not only a measure of financial security, it's about the pride of your hard work. And as president, I will fight to help first-time home buyers with your down payment, take on the companies that are jacking up rents, and build millions of new homes. For years, we have heard excuses about why America can't build enough housing. Enough with the excuses. I'm going to cut the red tape and work with the private sector and local governments to speed up building and get it done. And the cost of housing isn't the only financial pressure on middle-class families. I have met so many young people who have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not always the resources to do it. So I'll fight for a child tax credit to save them some money, which will also lift American children out of poverty. I'll work to lower the cost of child care, which is out of reach for too many working families today. And for too many people in the sandwich generation who are raising young children and taking care of a parent, juggling all of it is extremely difficult. You know, I took care of my mother when she got sick, cooking food that she had a taste for, finding clothes that would not irritate her skin. And understand, as I do, that caregiving is about dignity. It is about dignity.
I just don't believe it.
And currently, if you need home care and you don't have some money to hire someone, you and your family need to deplete your savings to qualify for help.
But they
That's
have it
not
where you
right.
can sign up to be a home care
So
aide for
we're
your
going
loved
to
ones.
change the approach and allow Medicare to cover the cost of home care
They do though.
so seniors can get the help and care they need
do.
in their own home.
They do already. It's already a thing.
Now, Donald Trump has a different approach. He tried to cut Medicare and Social Security every year he was president. Look, I believe that when people have worked hard their entire life, they deserve to retire with the benefits they have earned. And I believe in the fundamental freedom of Americans to make decisions about their own bodies and not have their government tell them what to do. I will fight to restore what Donald Trump and his hand-selected Supreme Court justices took away from the women of America. That today, 1 in 3 women in America, think about it, 1 in 3 women in America lives in a state with a Trump abortion ban. Many with no exceptions even for rape and incest. The idea that a woman who survives a crime of a violation to her body should not have the authority to make a decision about what happens to her body next, that is immoral. That is immoral. And Trump's not done. He would ban abortion nationwide, restrict access to birth control and put IVF treatments at risk, and force states to monitor women's pregnancies. Just Google Project 2025 and read the plans for yourself. And look, I think we all know one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to simply agree the government should not be telling her what to do with her body.
Just like the government should not be telling me I have to have electric car,
Not
bitch.
the government. And when
Now they want
Congress
to force
passes
that
a
on
bill
me.
to restore reproductive freedom nationwide, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. Proudly.
She's nuts, man.
And look, on another subject, politicians have got to stop treating immigration as an issue to scare up votes in an election. And instead treat it as the serious challenge that it is, that we must finally come together to solve. I will work with Democrats and Republicans to sign into law the border security bill that Donald Trump killed. When I was Attorney General of a border state, I saw the chaos and violence caused by transnational criminal organizations that I took on. And when I am president,